State Studio, the sports media palace of Mid-America, the Wolf of Center Street. Here's your host, John Nabors.
And welcome into the John Nabors Show here live from Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I am your host, John Nabors, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon, as we have a lot of things we're going to get into today. Going to have Barrett Sallee of Smothered and Covered on SiriusXM. He'll be joining us, talk a little college football. And we'll have an Arkansas update for you. We'll talk some basketball. And in fact, I know that that's what a lot of you are seeing right now on the stream and the title of it and everything. But did want to at least address some things that happened in Razorback baseball. Because, like, we'll get to basketball. Don't worry. We'll get to basketball. But Razorback baseball was pretty today. You know, I've talked about the SEC tournament and my thoughts on it, whether or not it's worth having or worth going to. And I still remain the same. And my feelings on how it goes for Arkansas, or at least how it looks for Arkansas, knowing that they're a national seed at this point in time. But I watched this game against South Carolina, and honestly, it was so prevalent. Like, it was so on brand for Razorback baseball to do what they did. I mean, they lost 6-5. They had their opportunities. In fact, in the bottom of the ninth inning, Arkansas had an opportunity to win the game. They had runners at first and second with one out. Almost hit into a double play with Aloy, but then still had runners at the corners with two outs and couldn't come up with the big hit. I will give a lot of credit to Peyton Stovall. Goes 3 for 5 today, so nicely done at him. He's hitting .353 this year. So Stovall is great. But, you know, you got Diggs, who had one hit, White, who had one hit, Sprague-Lott, who had one hit, and Edmondson, who had one hit, and that was it. That was it. Just not the type of performance you were hoping to see when you do have a chance to win and you don't come up with those timely hits. I mean, Arkansas overall, with I guess they had 9 hits in this game. I think the final, or 5 or 6 of the hits came in literally the last 2 innings. So it was just a little bit discouraging whenever you see guys get on base, runners in scoring position, and you still can't get them home. Like, that ending of that game summed up everything that I felt about Arkansas right there. Like, just perfectly summed it up. A team that is good enough to get on base, a team that's good enough to go up against a team that's good enough to do some things offensively, but then when it comes down to making the play, the hit to get runs in, they don't. They left 10 runners on base today. So just really disappointing from that aspect. And now they're going to be playing, I guess, the early game tomorrow, which, as we know, that the SEC tournament, it is double elimination. There is that. So don't forget about that. But they're going to be facing elimination tomorrow in their game. And we'll see how that one plays out. But either way, I'm not going to sit here and say, this is terrible. This is the worst. This team ain't anything. They're not going to do anything. But it just sums it up. It sums up the team. In fact, I just saw that I guess Dave Van Horn, with the opening statement in this game, said it was a game of missed opportunities. 3 passes will come back and get you. Yeah. No kidding. I assume he said they meant 3 free passes, not 3 passes. So, anyways, it was abysmal. It was abysmal. So, I want your thoughts too. I know people are getting after it in the chat, and if you want to dive into it on the phone lines as well, 936-246-2889 is that number to call in. But I'm not going to sit here and say this team's toast and they're not making Omaha. Like, I'm not going to do that. Now, can you be concerned about certain things? Can you be concerned about the consistency of lacking of hitting, like absolutely. You can be concerned about that. Like I even tweeted out, I wish I had the graphics still that ESPN or SEC Network put up about where Arkansas ranks in some major categories. And in like 3 of the major categories in pitching, Arkansas is first. And then in 3 of the major categories in hitting, they're 12th, and 12th. You know, it's almost like, you know, you see in football a lot of times. You know, those teams that have elite offenses that just can, that Big 12 type offense that can score at will on you, but they can't stop anybody. That's kind of like what Arkansas is. Actually, you know what's a better example? You know what's a better example of this? Arkansas is Virginia basketball right now. They're Virginia basketball. Where, yes, defensively, they're really good. They're shutting you down. They're consistent. They're known for it. They're number one. But because they don't have the offensive firepower, they can lose games in frustrating ways. You know, we saw Virginia lose a game to a 16 seed once. It's like that's how it sets it up. You can't win if you can't score. And the problem is that you have a lot of really good players on this team. Like I'll be honest about it. You have really good players on this team with a really good group of guys that are staying healthy for the most part. I liked what I saw from a few of the players today, and especially in the pitching side of things. I know some of them struggled, but you know, I thought Fouch was outstanding. And just the limited time that he had. Fouch was great. I thought Faraday did great too. Even Gackle, I know he gave up that home run, but man, that guy Messina, that dude was just on another level for this weekend, or this week so far. I mean, Messina went, 3 for 4? 5 RBIs, 2 home runs. So yeah, that guy's really good. So again, that's just the problem, is like there's good things about it. And Stovall's the man. Like Stovall's been the big constant in the hitting side of things. I mean, 3 hits, 5 at bats, had an RBI, had a run scored, 2 doubles. I mean, that's what you want to see from your captain like that. But I'm not giving up on him. I'm not freaking out. I'm not going to get to that point. But that's what it's not what you wanted to see. It's not what you wanted to see. And then, you know, they got the regionals coming up. And they didn't, you know, Arkansas didn't start Hagen Smith or anything. So, but I also saw Dave Van Horn just said they're talented. They have a good team. There's not too many holes in that lineup. We maneuver pretty good except for one guy, and he killed us. Yeah. Messina was the reason why that Arkansas lost this game, or at least why they scored more than Arkansas. I feel like there was such a routine in going from, all right, we're going to hit the batter, and then the next guy up is going to hit a home run. I feel like that happened like 3 times today. Not sure if it did. I know it happened at least twice. But yeah, I'm just not. I'm not like just feeling gung ho about everything. This team, like, and I'll be clear about this. This team is still good enough to make it to Omaha. They are. And when you're going up in the SEC tournament, you are facing off against really good teams. Like Kentucky got smoked by LSU today. Does that mean Kentucky's not a team that's good enough to go to the World Series, a team that went 22-8 in the conference? No. Things happen, and especially in the SEC tournament. Things happen. But the disappointing thing is the way it happened today is the same crap we've been seeing. It's the same story. I would have rather Arkansas lost in a shootout than this. I would have rather Arkansas lost because of, like, putting pine tar on the bats. Like, I don't know. Like, I just wish they would have not lost this way, the way that they have all year long. It continues to be an issue. And it continues to be a problem. And I'm telling you right now, when you go into the regionals and even to the supers, you can't just be this team and say, okay, well, we're good enough now. You got to find ways to get the bats going. You got to find ways to manufacture runs. Arkansas is good enough to get on base, but they just have not been good enough to get them home. And that's what's so weird. That's what's so weird. You're good enough to get them on base, but you're bad enough to leave them there. That really is the stuff that makes you want to pull your hair out. You know, it's like in basketball, you're getting wide open looks, but you're just not hitting the shot. It's like in football when you have wide receivers wide open, but you're just not hitting them. Or you get into maybe the better example is you get into the red zone or the goal line and you can't punch it in. That's the stuff that just wants to make you go crazy. Just go nuts. And I feel for, you know, it's not like I know that the people are all about talking about, you know, the coaches and coaches that are good, coaches that need to be fired, or coaches that need to move on. You know, people are going after Nate Thompson. And I don't think that, you know, Nate Thompson is above reproach or above criticism, but it's also coming down to the guys the players need to step up. They're baseball players. They need to be able to step up to and get some hits. That's what needs to happen. So I wish I had more answers for you, but it's like, you know, I have no answers. It's kind of how I feel about things. What was it, John L. Smith that said that? I don't know if that's a good person to repeat from, but that's how I feel. It's just like, I have no answers. It's the same thing. Same thing. So I'm going to ask everybody, though, what is your confidence level of Arkansas getting back into Omaha? We'll do a scale 1 to 10. Let's do that. Put that in the chat, folks. Most confident is 10. How do you feel about Arkansas's chances of getting back to Omaha? Let's see, we got Braden Wood. He's feeling great. He says 9.8. All right. David says 4. Johnny Young says 0. David says 3. John Finch says 2. Camp says Lewis says 8. Zach Rhodes says 6. So basically, the entire numbers of spectrum has been all there. It's all there. So it seems like most people are about the 8, and that's where I'd be at right now. That's where I'll be at. I'd say about an 8, 7.5 and 8. Because if this team is good enough to win 20 games in the SEC, they're good enough to make it to Omaha. Doesn't mean it'll for sure happen, but they're good enough. They're good enough for that. But yeah, I'm still feeling pretty confident. Johnny's saying, John, you're delusional. Well, listen, I'm not saying it was a beautiful thing. I'm not saying that it was just like, oh, you know, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. It's okay now. No, I you don't win 20 games in the SEC and think that you have a 0% chance of making Omaha. Like that doesn't even compute. Doesn't even compute. Now, if this was in a regional game against your 4-seed Central Connecticut, whatever, then okay, yeah, confidence is. But you do have games at home, which you've been good at this year. You won't be playing teams from the SEC, you know, because that's another thing, too. I remember Eric Musselman talking about it in basketball terms and dealing with the SEC tournament and everything. Going to the NCAA tournament, a lot of times it was like a breath of fresh air because you just got tired of playing the league and tired of playing the teams and tired of playing the coach. Like, you kind of got tired of it and you want to get out of it. And I'm sure that there's an element of that right now to what Arkansas is going through and what a lot of teams is like, we don't want to play the SEC teams anymore. Odds are you'll still play them at some point in time in postseason play because more often than not, 3, possibly 4 teams make it to Omaha from this conference. So odds are you're going to run into another one. In fact, I was thinking about that the other day. In 2018 in the Supers, Arkansas played South Carolina. 2019 in the Supers, they played Ole Miss. So it's like they got set up it's happened where they had to go through some SEC teams to get to Omaha. So you gotta be your best. You are who you are right now. And what it's going to come down to is you got to count on Hagen Smith, which I don't see why you don't. Got to count on Hagen Smith. You got to count on Peyton Stovall in the lineup doing his thing, as well as Peyton Holt. I think Peyton Holt's overall been pretty good too. And then after that, you just got to hope that you get 1 or 2 more pitchers that bring it. And then one or two more hitters that just make a few. Like, you don't have to. It'd be nice to have all 9 players in the lineup hitting 300 and more. Like, it would be nice to have that, but it's not the case. You just got to be able to be patient. You got to be able to hit it right when the matchup is there, and you got to let it not get to your head. Because I think that's a lot of cases. I think that's what this team has so much is things go to their head. And even Dave Van Horn's talked about that with some of his pitchers, that things went to their head. I felt like some batters, some guys that I know that are better than what we've seen. A guy like Kendall Diggs, who's better than that. Like, I think that stuff has gone to his head a little bit. So, but I think Diggs has done better here recently. In this game, when he finally got that big hit, that was huge for him. So, yeah, and Arkansas had 9 strikeouts today. They struck out 9 times today, which, isn't the most ideal thing, but 11 strikeouts for South Carolina. Again, it's just that one guy, because the rest of the team was not that good. Messina's the only reason why South Carolina even scored. Because he had 3 hits, and besides him, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits, all but from one guy. His 3 hits, and his 3 hits were huge. I mean, he had 5 RBIs. Dude was a monster. And it wasn't just in this game. He was a monster yesterday, too, against Alabama. So, just monstrous dude. And somebody said that he should have been ejected when he was arguing balls and strikes to the umpire. No, come on. Like, you got to really, really do something bad, or at least be warned first, and then you keep doing it. But just a simple arguing balls and strikes isn't going to get you immediate ejection. That'd be soft. I would say that would be soft, and that's coming from me, because I don't agree with the things that a lot of people feel in a lot of cases, but that's something that I'm not too concerned about, and I'm not too worried about either. But still, let's see. Okay, folks. Before we get to your phone calls, I know we got some phone calls and some people in the chat too. We'll talk basketball. Don't worry. But I got to tell you about our friends over at Alumni Hall, as they are the place for all of your Razorback apparel. Because you're going to be making that trip to the regional. I know you are. You're going to be coming to Baum-Walker Stadium, and say what you want about what happens on the field, because I know Arkansas has lost their share of regionals at times in Fayetteville. But there is nothing more fun than the build-up, the lead-up, and postseason play in Baum-Walker. So when you're out there, make sure you're wearing the latest and greatest apparel when it comes to all things Razorbacks, and you have to do it with Alumni Hall. They are conveniently located right there on College at 3417 North College Avenue. But shopping them online is probably the easiest thing to do, because you can give it shipped right to your door. And if you do it now, you'll probably have time to get it, make sure it fits, wash it, maybe, and then have it ready to roll in Fayetteville next weekend. So, again, check them out today. It's Alumni Hall. And you can go to the website at nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. That's nattystatesports.com/alumni hall to check out the latest and greatest from all the apparel that they have. It is Alumni Hall, official partner of Natty State Sports. All right, we'll get to the phone calls, and we'll get to your chat here in a second. And, of course, we got to have our residential caller, Trey from Harrison. What's up, Trey?
How you doing today, John?
Oh, I am just rolling. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. My level of confidence in the Razorbacks going to Omaha is a solid 7.8.
7.8. Okay,
And
I like
also,
it.
Yeah. And another question to break it up from all the sports and stuff. Get everybody a little bit loose. Sounds like you need it, John. But what is your favorite hobby besides watching Razorbacks, and just what do you like to do besides covering the Razorbacks and just going to games?
Well, Trey, I will admit, I was not
favorite is
go ahead.
Fishing. I absolutely love fishing. I just love fishing. I was just curious, what do you like to do besides watch Razorbacks?
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate the question, Trey, and as always, it's good to talk with you. My hobbies, I guess. I like to golf. I haven't golfed yet this year. I need to. I just haven't had time. But I do love to golf. I'm not very good. And I also like going to the gym, which I have done 9 out of the last 10 days. So, I deserve something cool for that. But yeah, I would say those two. I love playing with my dog Rowdy, walking him around, like going to social events, like the beach. My life is pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie, my life is pretty boring. But those are usually the things that I enjoy the most of doing. So thank you for letting me know. Because hey, listen, fishing. I have a lot of my friends that are big into fishing. They're more outdoors, but I have gone fishing. It is pretty fun, but I'm more of the, deep sea fishing guy. That's how I feel. So, but appreciate your phone call, Trey, as always. 936-246-2889 is the number to call in if you want to get your thoughts and opinions heard here on the show. All right, let's go to the chat, and I'm sure all of y'all are being very level-headed about everything. David says, we face 2 lefty pitchers and 1 hot hitter or another NC State at home. Not sure we make it. And see, that's a great point because those are the things that you really can't have. I want to say that you don't have any say in, but you just never know. That's why I was talking about yesterday why baseball's postseason is so hard to navigate through, because sometimes you just don't know. You don't know who you get. Like TCU last year, they went on a good run. I think they ended up going to Omaha. But the times that they played Arkansas, not only in the beginning of the season, but in postseason, something about them. They just knew how to beat the brakes off of Arkansas. And I don't know why. But they didn't do that to really anybody else. So sometimes it's just about those matchups. Braden says, it was great seeing Diggs make contact today, though. Yeah, it was. Again, I was big for him. Big to see him get that going, and hopefully he continues to get that going. Wonderbread says, I still think it's important that they've set themselves up to play at home. There's no question they've played better at Baum than on the road. I agree. I just hope that stays that way because, I don't know, postseason's different, man. Everything's different. Like, you're not, even though you're the host team, you're technically not the home team. You know what I'm saying? That's why I hate that rule where the host team will sometimes be the road team. I think it was in the super regionals too. In game 1, the host team is the home team, but then in game 2, you got to be the road team, and that's so dumb. I don't understand that part of it. But, yeah, they've been a lot better at Baum, but postseason Baum is different. It has a different feel to it. So hopefully it doesn't let them get going in a bad way there. Braden says, luckily we play at Kentucky tomorrow, which won't be an RPI hit at all, really, if we lose. Honestly, it's a win-win tomorrow as long as we stay healthy. Yeah, at this point in time, if you would have beaten South Carolina today, I would have said, okay, so maybe you can get a couple more games in. But since you're facing elimination going up against Kentucky, if Arkansas loses tomorrow, I am not going to think anything of it. And I'll be curious to see what Dave Van Horn ends up doing as far as pitching goes. But, yeah, I'm not too worried about that. And also, Wonderbread says, to be at a 10 confidence is silly, but being at 0 is just silly. Yeah. I think both of them, if you're at either one of the extremes, it's pretty difficult to take it seriously there. But anyway, okay, David says, Hagen, he announced Hagen's pitching. Okay, thank you. I have not, I said, as soon as I started the show is when his press conference was going on, so I didn't get a chance to see it. So if Hagen's pitching, then all right, we'll see what he does and how long he stays in and where he ends up going next out of the bullpen. So, yeah. If you win, it's great, whatever. But if not, it's no big deal. But I do want to remind everybody that tomorrow we're going to be at Tin Roof doing the live show from 4 to 6 in the afternoons. So come on out and see us at Tin Roof. We had a great turnout last week and even the week before, and get to be in the main stage there, right there on the first floor is always a good time. We got Bob Holt out last time, which was fun. So, yeah, come on out, folks. It's a really good time. And it got great specials and happy hours and half-price apps. It's a good spot. And one of the things that I have been doing is that for those that show up, I do like a random drawing, and then that person joins me for the final part of the show. I mean, what could be better than joining the John Nabors show, right? Right. So, but yeah, we'll come on out and see us. We'll have some fun with that too. All right. So enough about baseball, because I know we'll have plenty to talk about there after a while. Again, 936-246-2889 is that number to call and to text in. So I want to talk about this. Let's move to basketball. because it hasn't really had anything happen, anything click as far as players joining the team just yet. And I know people are constantly waiting on it, waiting on the couple of guys from the overseas to possibly join, as well as, Wagner, whatever it is. People have been curious about what is that. And I'll say this. I started thinking about what I wanted to discuss. And the fact is that it's been over a month since John Calipari has been hired. It's been over a month. Like, think about that. It has been over a month since John Calipari was hired as the head coach of Arkansas. It doesn't feel like it, does it? But there's been a lot that's transpired over that course of time. There has been some players added, coaches added, sometimes all at once, sometimes over a span. But either way, you're starting to see how everything's developed so far. And I remember when Calipari was hired as the head coach. Once I got through the initial shock, I was starting to think to myself, okay, so what's this going to look like here in the next few months? Like, I have an idea of what it's going to look like on the court. You could understand his style and how he approaches the game and everything. But like, what is to be expected when it comes to his initial splash in the next month or so? Well, I started writing down some things because I remember going back and watching shows that we had and some podcasts that I did and some guest spots that I did. And I remember the things that I was pretty much expecting, or that I kept mentioning, was the fact that I expected him to bring the majority of his class from Kentucky, the high school class that is, to Arkansas, which he did. I expected him to add some high-end transfers, some guys from there really experienced, and he did. I also expected him to bring in a lot of the players from Kentucky, played for him last year, that hit the portal, which he has. So those are the things that I expected to happen that actually happened. Those are the things that I'm like, yeah, that's on course. That's on par. But I will say there were some other things that I expected that haven't happened. Now, before I get into this, let me be very clear. I am not saying it's a bad thing or that it's terrible that these things have not happened just yet. So don't mistake it. I am just throwing out of things that I personally thought would happen, just haven't happened. One of the things I thought he'd be a lot more present when it comes to social media, when it comes to going around town, around city, like having pictures taken and all that. And he's done it to a little extent, but just not as much. And I will also admit that this probably has to do a little bit with just when you get used to like how Eric Musselman was all the time on social media. It was always getting thrown to you. And it was always like, oh man, like this guy's unstoppable. That's always going. So I'll admit that. But I also did expect him to have at least the vast majority of his team made up. And at this point in time, it's like right at half, essentially. It's 7. I expected 10. I felt like, hey, you got this NIL money. You got your John Calipari. You got a full empty roster to do whatever you want with it. So go and pick them. Go and find them. And he didn't do it. He hasn't done it yet. Again, not saying it's a problem. It's just what I expected. And also, I'm a little surprised, and maybe this is just because he is John Calipari and he doesn't have to have it, but I am a little surprised that he has not had to do or has done a lot of national appearances on TV or on radio or anything like that. I know he's busy recruiting, so I know that that's a thing. I know that that's a thing. But I was just always under the impression that he was that guy. He was just going to be out and about. He's being seen in his Arkansas gear, and he's gone to some EYBL events. He's going to watch some players play and everything. So there's that element to it. But I don't know. I just kind of always expected to see it. And I haven't. So the most important things that Calipari has needed to do, in my mind, or at least what I expected him to do, he has done. I think you have a highly talented roster. I think you have a coaching staff assembled that's really, really good. And also, if you didn't have a chance to read what Scotty and Curtis put up today on nattystatesports.com and talking about the early poll rankings that Arkansas has been a part of, I guess it was Curtis on this, but he was bringing up the fact that Aaron Torres has Arkansas at number 12 right now. John Rothstein has him at number 13. Jeff Borzella has number 19, and then Gary Parrish has him at 23. And also, Joe Lunardi's latest offseason bracketology. Again, we're talking about way too early stuff, has Arkansas as a projected 7 seed with a first-round matchup against Pitt. So I say all that because I am new to this with Calipari being the head coach of Arkansas. Just like I was new to it when Muss was the head coach. Like, the staunch difference. You know, you had Mike Anderson, who I respect Mike Anderson, and I like Mike Anderson. But Mike Anderson wasn't the big social media guy. He wasn't always at events. He wasn't always in your face. He wasn't always, promoting stuff. And then you go from Muss, who's just 0 to 100, you can't stop seeing the guy. He's everywhere. And then now it's a guy you hire that literally is everywhere because of his aura, because of his symbiote being, whatever you want to call it. And now it's just different. It's just different. So I think that it's going to be fine. And I think Cal is always going to be someone who gets talked about. He's going to be in the media with everybody. And, he's going to be in on players that he really wants. And, even if it's not this class that he's working on, the next year's class he's working on, he's throwing around offers to the number one player in the country and stuff. Like, you're going to get a lot of that. But it's been a crazy month, but the timing of it has also been very interesting too. Because I still felt like DJ Wagner was gonna be a Razorback, and he hasn't decommitted or has not committed elsewhere. So it may end up happening, but I just thought the timing of it was okay. Here we go. And you hear about these European guys, a guy named Igor. It's like, all right, hey, that's who they want. We just haven't heard anything. So it's been pretty quiet right now. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. I'm not going to freak out. I refuse to freak out. Razorback fans do not freak out. But I'd say overall it's been pretty close to what I expected, having John Calipari as your head coach for a little over a month at Arkansas. Still crazy to even say that. Sometimes I still don't believe it. But still. Yeah, a lot of you are saying the things that I kind of believe too, and I feel the same way. Like Bobby G says, I trust Cal. Let him do his thing. Yeah, I trust him too. So I'm not. Hopefully, people don't take my messaging as some sort of like, oh, I don't know about this. It's like, no, I think it's fine. But there's still just a lot of uncertainty surrounding it, to where we as individuals get impatient, and whether you're a fan or whether you're an astute member of the media, you get nervous. You get impatient. You're like, hey, I want this now. Where's it at? Give it to me. And that's not always the case. But I'm fine. Heartbroken Hog says, I promise not to freak out, at least until DJ signs with someone else. And I wouldn't freak out even then. I mean, you still have a really good squad and a good team. So I don't think there's any reason to epically freak out. Like, now, epically freak out would be if some of these guys that have committed and signed don't make it to campus. Like, that would be an epic freak out. But I don't see that being a major issue. Thomas says we should have gotten Pryor. Yeah, I felt pretty good about that one, but it's crazy what's out there, man. It's crazy in the basketball side of things. Mitchell says, does Coach Cal and his wife got a new home yet? I do not think so. I do not think so. Not to my knowledge. And if they do, I don't think they're going to make it public knowledge. I wouldn't think. I did see that, I guess, was it Brad Calipari tweeted out today. It was the first time he ever signed off on an email saying Woo Pig Suey. I was like, Hogs by 90. How's that feel? No, I'm sorry. It was his daughter. It was not Brad. It was his daughter. So just ended my email. She said, just ended a work email with Woo Pig. It's like, yes, absolutely. And she spelled it right, too, with only 2 O's. That's important. Bobby G says, we already have more 4 and 5 stars than we ever had. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, we're getting greedy. It's like you literally have, because I was looking at the recruiting rankings and everything. According to On3, team recruiting rankings, Arkansas is number 2 in the country behind Duke, which they're not passing. This Duke has 2 5 stars, 4 4 stars. But Arkansas is number 2. That's pretty good. And then if you look at the transfer portal, I mean, we know who Arkansas lost, but I mean, they've gained some pretty good ones. Jonas Adu, John L. Davis, Adu Thiero. Pretty good players, I'd say. In fact, if you look at the 24/7 Sports, all 4 of the incoming transfers are 4-star transfer players, with John L. Davis being the number 1 and Jonas Adu being the number 4. So, yeah, he's doing all right. It's not like it's become a problem of like, oh my gosh, this is just going to, like, we only got 2 players. Man, you got so much stupid talent. It doesn't matter who's going to find a way to navigate through it all, too. Brandon says, when is the Natty State golf tournament going to be? Yeah, man, that's been, honestly, as funny as it is, that's been one of my goals to do. Like, when I first started this company, as weird as it is, I was like, first thing I thought of in an event was like doing a golf tournament, golf scramble, because I love golf scrambles. Everybody loves golf scrambles. And originally my idea was to do it where not only do teams of 4, buy into it and goes towards, various causes and everything, and then we get sponsorship for holes. How those scrambles work, but also where you'd have a celebrity player that you would play with, and it would be like the Razorback baseball team, and we pay him via NIL for that. Just make an appearance and play golf. I thought that'd be really cool. But either way, it's still in the works. Don't know when the date is because you have to do it pretty far in advance to do it. But trust me, I'm working on it, and I hope we can have it here soon. It'd be nice to do it in the fall, but again, the fall is creeping up on us before we know it, and it's gone pretty quickly. That's for sure. Folks, all right, before we keep it going here, because I know we got some other topics that we want to dive into, I want to tell you about our friends over at L. Jennings Law. Now, as we gear up for this weekend, of course, of SEC baseball tournament play, let's not talk about strategy. Let's talk about everything. The strategy, you know what I'm saying? Like, not on the field, but for your life. The thing that actually matters, the thing that's actually important. And today's program is brought to you by L. Jennings Law, your go-to experts in estate planning, specializing in trust, business planning, and elder law. Whether you're looking to secure your family's future with a solid estate plan, manage your business's succession plan, or navigate the complexities of long-term care, L. Jennings Law has you covered, and they craft personalized solutions with the same precision and impact as a Hagen Smith fastball. So call Ledley Jennings today for a free consultation at 501-501-WILL. That's 501-501-9455. You can also check out their website at ljenningslaw.com. It is L. Jennings Law, a good steward firm. All right. And I know also, too, we'll have some updates for the Arkansas side of things and have some funny videos of Did Y'all See This? Barrett Sallee will join us, talk about college football. Maybe a little surprising what you hear from him. I don't know what y'all's thoughts are on Barrett Sallee. He's a good friend of mine, but yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more because it's pretty crazy right now. In fact, there's a pretty crazy storyline that's happening in college football when it comes to broadcasting and the rights and everything there too. So, but we'll talk about that. We'll dive into that. So once we do, we'll get to more of your phone calls. Again, 936-246-2889 is that number to call and text in. And you can also get after us in the chat. Find it that way too. But we'll take a break and come back with some college football talk and dealing with games on TNT? Pretty wild. So stay with us.
We not done yet either. So don't be satisfied because we not done.
Hey John, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrats. I had a two-parter if that's okay. You mentioned Arkansas. Eric.
Why do you always talk about Arkansas? But go ahead.
Well, why do you always talk about Kentucky?
You missed it. You missed it. You missed it. Just tell me you missed it. I'm not going to go there with you today. Why not?
And that will be the last question I answer with that hat on.
Oh, shoot.
That is why Arkansas is fantastic.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I didn't like the game, but I'm glad I was able to walk off the floor again and deep inside and have that funny feeling that, hey, one more time, Horns.
Best guys, I know it's a tough time for you. The coach is gone, but you got a new coach now, and you got to listen to what he says. Okay, I know you're thinking, oh, who is this new guy? Where's the other guy that crashed the motorcycle? We like him better. He was cool or whatever. Forget about all that. Listen to the new coach and get out there and win some games.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
You guys act like it's... Pick it up a little bit. Okay? Get your chin up. Smile. Smile. Okay? Dang, you guys, all right? If not, I'm not talking.
Big Red, so excited. Big Red. Oh.
Guys, I've got just one thing I want to say to you. Touchdown, Arkansas!
I was a teacher today. Told those boys, welcome to the SEC.
Well, Fayetteville is 1,843 miles away, but the call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
Well, stick my dick in the mashed potato. Go Hogs.
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas.
Every time you put a mic in my face, I'm going to say Arkansas.
The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, welcome back in to the John Nabors Show here live from Natty State Sports Studios. Going to be having Barrett Sallee joining us here after a while. We'll also get to your Arkansas update here in just a little bit. But I wanted to bring this up because this was, you call it breaking news. I thought it was pretty significant. And dealing with college football and the fact that they are having a game on TNT, playoff games on TNT. How about this statement? This is coming from a screenshot, I should say, from Ross Dellinger. But essentially, what it is saying is that ESPN and TNT have reached a 5-year agreement for TNT Sports to sublicense select college football playoff games on ESPN, beginning with the upcoming college football season. TNT Sports will present 2 first-round college football playoff games during the 24 and 25 seasons. In addition to first-round games, TNT Sports will add 2 quarterfinals each year. Beginning in the 26th season and through the 28th season, TNT will be the primary network televising the sublicense of college football playoff games among TNT Sports distributing platforms. ESPN will present all other college football playoff games on its network, including the annual college football national championship, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so it's really sad because the NBA or inside the NBA on TNT is not going to be around next year, which is really a shame. And I mean that. I know that even if you don't watch the NBA, you know how incredible inside the NBA has been with Ernie and Shaq and Chuck and Kenny. And the fact that it's not going to be around anymore is really disappointing. But I just think that as disappointing as that is, I'm curious what it's going to look like having college football playoff games on TNT. Like, I think it actually could be really cool. I really do. Who knows? Maybe they'll have Chuck and Shaq and Ernie and all of them doing college game day type stuff. That would be pretty awesome. That would be pretty fun. I hold my breath on it, but again, I was surprised to see it. And this is nothing against necessarily ESPN. ESPN pays a lot of money, but college football for the SEC at least, now that it's gotten away, it's basically just got a monopoly on ESPN. It was nice when you still had games on CBS, the game of the week every week on CBS. It was nice for that. But, man, you just remember back in a time where you had games on Jefferson Pilot, You had games on ESPN. You'd have games on CBS. I remember Arkansas playing games on Fox. Like, it just seemed like it was a nice little spread out, a lot of love, but pretty much everything, at least in the SEC, is going to be on ESPN or ABC, I guess, be the network side of things. So I have just felt like with all of what's been going on in college football and the changes that have gone on, this will be an interesting one to check out. So I thought it was pretty cool, though. I can't wait. Hopefully I don't even know who'll get to commentate the games. I don't know what they'll do, but Bobby G brings up a great point here. He says TNT would be better than Amazon Prime and Peacock. Yeah, I am. Obviously, we're on live stream. Streaming is the future. We all know it. I know it. That's why I started this company. It's like future is here. Future is streaming. It is very important. However, as important as that is, I still think there is an element of where you have big events that everyone wants to watch that has traditionally been on regular television or whatever, still needs to be there. And even if it's streaming on YouTube TV, something like that, and it's on a CBS or whatever, like, still needs to stick that way as much as possible. Simulcast it if you have to, but I just do not like it when the NFL or anybody else just handles the big events, big games and whatnot with that. Like, I just don't like that. I don't like it at all. I don't like it one bit. So hopefully that doesn't end up being something that constantly gets brought up overall again and again. That's my hope, but we'll see. Let's see. Yeah, for those of you who are asking about who Arkansas plays in baseball, they are playing Kentucky tomorrow, I believe. Yeah. Right? Yeah, they're playing Kentucky. It's going to be at 9:30 in the morning. So we'll have some hogs for breakfast. What's nice about it is at least that game, it gets played at 9:30. You don't have to wait on another game. But the game being that early in the morning, man, gonna have to have a little wake and bake, which I know a lot of you do, and check out the Hogs. But yeah, they'll be playing against Kentucky, and both teams will be facing elimination. And if Arkansas happens to win that game, they will face on Friday at 3 p.m. the loser of LSU and Tennessee or Vanderbilt. So, just some of the best teams. So, but if they lose, they go home and it's over. It's over with. Yeah, as Bobby G says, yeah, just the number 2 ranked Kentucky, no big deal. Yeah, no big deal. No big deal at all. All right, let's go ahead and get into your Arkansas update. Presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. And the latest is Razorback Baseball could not take care of business in the SEC tournament against South Carolina as they dropped the game 6-5. Had a chance with runners in scoring position in the bottom of the 9th inning to get it done, but they just could not do it. Arkansas was able to put together some runs here and there. They scored 1 in the 2nd inning, 1 in the 4th inning, 2 in the 7th, and only 1 in the 9th. But South Carolina and Messina, that dude was just lighting everybody up. So not great there, but there was some positives that you could take from, at least on the pitching side of things. Bybee struggled a little bit in the early going, but then Dylan Fouch came in and just wrecked. I was really impressed by Fouch. I think Jake Faraday, when he came in, he did a really good job too. And, really shut down some guys. 3 strikeouts for him. And I thought Gackle did good overall too, except for that dude that just ended up like going crazy there, Messina. Like, that dude was just, I don't know. He was on one. So Arkansas gets the loss, but they play Kentucky tomorrow morning at 9:30. And also something that happened yesterday, as soon as the show ended, Arkansas was able to get a commitment out of Florida in football, which I thought was always, listen, it's always cool to get a player from Florida. But it's also cool when you get a wide receiver, when you have a Bobby Petrino coached offense. So, for instance, This guy, his name's Kamari Williams. He's 6'1", 175, and he's a 3-star wide receiver, but he chose Arkansas over Ole Miss, Florida, Florida State, Pittsburgh, Indiana, Louisville. He had offers to LSU, A&M, Michigan, Penn State, Auburn, Oregon. So a lot of offers there. But here's the fascinating thing. Williams was offered a scholarship by the Razorbacks on January 30th when Jimmy Smith was the coach, at the running backs coach, that is. Then wide receiver coach Ronnie Fouch comes in, and he's the one that gets him to commit to Arkansas. But to add another little interesting thing, too, Ronnie Fouch is the one that visited the kid's high school, Kamari Williams. Williams has never visited Arkansas. So just an interesting thing, or at least not an official visit at Arkansas. I just thought that was a pretty fascinating little thing there for him. But he's a 3-star recruit. It's all according to 24/7 Sports. He's a 3-star recruit. He's number 62 national among wide receivers, 61st overall in the state of Florida. And last year he had 49 catches, 695 yards, and 6 touchdowns. As a sophomore, he had 35 receptions for 916 yards and 11 touchdowns. And isn't that interesting? Like, as a sophomore, he had less catches, but like 300 more yards and 5 more touchdowns. I guess people started catching on. They're like, we need to watch this kid. Don't let him blow by you. But the Bobby Petrino offense gets so much focus on the quarterbacks, and rightfully so, because he's coached a lot of great quarterbacks in his time. However, the wide receivers have also always been elite. Always. Because people bring up, yes, Arkansas when they had Joe Adams, Jarius Wright, Greg Childs. Of course, I'm not taking anything away from them. They were great wide receivers, the best of wide receivers, the best group of wide receivers Arkansas has ever seen. But there were other really great wide receivers that Bobby Petrino recruited that weren't just from the state of Arkansas. Like Kobe Hamilton was phenomenal. I thought Mikael McKay, I know he didn't get a chance to really coach him because of, we all know why, but I thought Mikael McKay was a phenomenal prospect for the Petrino offense. Marquell Wade, that crazy guy. Dude was awesome. He was really electric. He was really good. So that's just to name a few. Even a guy like Javonte Herndon played in the NFL for a while. So, the point is that Petrino, as great as the quarterbacks have been, and as great as they've done a good job of not only recruiting quarterbacks, but developing quarterbacks and having quarterbacks set up for the great offenses that they've had, wide receivers are the ones that need to get a lot of praise and a lot of credit too. Because that is something I remember hearing from, I'm trying to remember who it was that was telling me. It was a former player when I was in school. But it was when Paul Petrino was the wide receivers coach. And he talked about how there were 2 things that the wide receiver coach, Paul Petrino, as well as Bobby, and just really hammered into wide receivers. Like just 2 things that they had to do, had to know about, had to make sure they did. And if they didn't do it, they were about to get ripped. One of them is something that we saw in spring practice this year, and I think it's pretty common, is just whenever you catch the ball, no matter if it's in a drill or if it's in scrimmages or whatever, you go score. You better get it, and you better haul, and you better go score. And you think that that's like a minor thing and an easy thing, but it's important because, as soon as you catch the ball, if you get into the mentality each and every time and go into that repetition every time to go score, it's going to become instinct. So that was something I always really found fascinating. And the other thing that Petrino and Paul Petrino also made sure that their wide receivers always knew and did was about counting steps. Counting your steps on your routes. Jarius Wright is a great example of this. Jarius Wright was a wide receiver that had a lot of speed and great hands. Jarius Wright was also only about 5'11". But for him to do the things he did at the wide receiver position, what made him so special? I mean, yeah, he was a great athlete. He ran really fast, and he had good hands. But there's a lot of wide receivers out there that are 5'11", have great speed, and have solid hands, for sure. But what stood out about Jarius Wright, and I heard coaches talk about this, what stood out about Jarius Wright was his footwork, his route running. He was perfect at running routes, and that's why he was always open, it felt like. Great athlete, great player, great guy. I mean, loved Arkansas, loved the Hogs, loved everything. But what set him apart from other wide receivers, other great athletes, other players, was that he knew how to run a route to a T. And if somebody tried to bump him and have bump and run coverage, trying to bump him off of his route, he would autocorrect immediately. So that's the type of thing that I think gets overlooked, and why whenever a wide receiver ends up committing to Arkansas, it's a very big deal to me. Like, I'm always fascinated with the Petrino wide receivers and who he looks at, because he has been also able to put wide receivers in really good positions where it's like, hey, if you're a great athlete, I'll make it work. Not everybody can run routes like Jarius Wright. Not everybody can make guys miss like Joe Adams. Like, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can run track like a Kobe Hamilton. But I can put you in a position to where when you have the ball in your hands, you're going to make a play. So I say all that because I'm really excited about the offense, and that's why I'm really excited about this Kamari Williams guy. Like I said, does he have all the big pomp and circumstance and all the big offers and everything? No. Well, he has offers, but as far as the 3-star thing, everybody sees that as like an average player. 3 stars are people too. Because you know what? Kobe Hamilton was a 3-star. Greg Childs was a 3-star. Mikael McKay was a 3-star. Pretty sure Marquel Wade was a 3-star too. I have to double check that. But hey, you can make 3 stars work. Petrino made them work. He made them work all the time. So I trust by Petrino on that front. All right, we're going to talk a little college football, speaking of, with Barrett Sallee. And it's always great to talk with Barrett because, he's a guy that has been around a long time in the college football landscape. And I also really appreciate talking with him about SEC Media Days, which is up and coming. We've got the credential request, I guess, here recently too. So that's going to be back down in Dallas, which is going to be so strange. So strange. But before we get to Barrett Sallee, I want to tell you all about BroThrow, which if you haven't checked out BroThrow just yet, do it right now. Go to BroThrow.com/Natty, Natty. BroThrow.com/Natty. And what BroThrow is that we all are into sports betting, right? We all like to make a little money, right? Well, BroThrow makes it extremely fun to do with a community of people. It's community-based because when you're putting down bets, you're betting against real people. So if you go to BroThrow.com/Natty and you see that John Nabors decided to take the Mavericks tonight at +4.5 and put $25 on, you're like, you're an idiot, John, because I'm going to beat you because I'm going to take, it's so funny to think, the Timberwolves. Like, I'm going to take the Timberwolves at -4.5 for $25, and I'm going to go head-to-head against you. We're going to take the bet, and then once that bet is done, guess what? You settle up, and you do it very easily via Venmo, Cash App, whatever it is. So you save a lot on the juice. Save a lot of money on the juice, and you're able to bet in the community. So again, check it out today. It's BroThrow.com/Natty, Natty. BroThrow.com/Natty. You can also enter promo code Natty, Natty. But when it comes to having some fun, when it comes to your sports betting, do it with BroThrow and BroThrow.com/Natty. All right, let's go ahead and hear from our guy, Barrett Sallee. All right now here on the John Nabors Show, we know that college football is just 99 days away for the Razorbacks, at least, as they'll be taking on UAPB on a Thursday night in War Memorial Stadium. Better get excited for that night. It's going to be so much fun. But there's a lot of things that's happening also in the college football landscape, and there's never too much college football that we can talk about. So let's go ahead and do more of that as we welcome in on the show, friend of the show, it is Barrett Sallee, who is of Outkick and does a great job of covering all things national college football-wise. And Barrett, as always, man, appreciate you joining us. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm great, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's always good, man. And I know that, like, right now, I'm curious, during a slower time of college football, what does your day usually look like? Like, what's your schedule kind of go into? Is it just finding stories, or when stories pop up, you go into them? But what's Barrett Sallee's a walk in his shoes like during this time of year?
Well, I do my daily college football show, College Football Smothered and Covered. So that, it kind of sucks sometime to find some content, but it's list season. So if nothing else pops, we can always create a list of some kind to get people yelling about each other, yelling to each other. So that's kind of what I tried to do for the daily podcast. And then for Outkick, it's more just columnist type stuff. They like to play off breaking news. So there's not a lot of breaking news these days. So just try to pick and choose when to go after and write a column or two. And then I'm also hosting the Braves Report podcast for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. So with what's going on with the Braves, that takes up a lot of my time as well. So staying as busy as possible, and I think I'm succeeding in that.
I would say so, man. I would say so. You got your feet in about everything, it sounds like. But not something that I know, like Razorback fans, for instance, here, people, every time I put up like a countdown of how many days it is until college football for Arkansas, the responses are pretty much like you expect. I don't care. Who cares? Like, whatever. Like, it's just a filler until basketball season. I mean, that's really how Razorback fans feel. And for someone like Sam Pitman, something I discussed yesterday, I want your thought on. For him in the future, does it look like it could still work with Pitman in Arkansas? I know he's still the head coach, and who knows, maybe Arkansas could surprise some people. But do you think future, long-term wise, that Sam Pitman is the solution for Arkansas moving forward?
Well, I still have faith in Sam Pitman. I think the biggest thing is, what should the expectation be for Arkansas in the new look SEC? Should it be win the SEC? Should it be make the SEC championship game? Should it be finish top 4, or should it be win 8 or 9 games every year? And to me, I think Arkansas should be one of those teams that wins 8 games, sometimes pops and contends for the SEC championship. But beyond that, I think it's a little bit much to expect more than that. And I think for Sam Pitman, he's got to show that he can do that. And I think he can. I still have faith that he can turn this program around. And we've seen him have success before, especially early on. So I think he's doing the right thing by trying to make the offense a little bit more dynamic. Obviously, when you hire Bobby Petrino, it's a little bit more complicated at Arkansas than in other schools potentially. But I still have faith in Sam. I think he can get the job done. I just think it's going to take a little bit of adjustment to the expectations in the new look SEC, because in the past, Arkansas winning 9-10 games, competing for the SEC West title, that was, I wouldn't say the expectation, but it was something that should happen more times than not. I'd say contending for the SEC now for Arkansas is going to be very, very difficult. So, getting 8 or 9 wins, going to a good bowl game, I think Sam can do that.
Well, also, he's entering into his 5th season, which is amazing that we're already here 5 years into the Sam Pitman era at Arkansas. But when he was hired, there was no doubt that there was a lot of curiosity. We'll probably try to put it in a nice way, because they were like, hey, this guy's never been a head coach before. Yeah. This is a guy that's, he's going into a team that has won 1 SEC game in 3 years. But the 4 seasons, I know it's been bad, especially this past season, but what has Sam Pitman in those 4 years said to you? Did he do better than you thought he would? Did he do worse? About right? Like, what do you think about the job he's done so far?
Yeah, I think he's done a pretty admirable job. I think when you go in and you have a coach who has never had meaningful head coaching experience outside a couple of years of junior college, 2 generations before, you have to wonder, okay, is he ready to handle this type of responsibility? And I think early on he showed that he was, and I think he still is. And I think he's done a relatively good job of attacking the transfer portal as well. I talked to him last offseason. He was very excited in how he developed KJ Jefferson and what KJ did. And obviously it didn't work out, and he's on to, I guess you could call it greener pastures. I don't know what you consider UCF, but I think he's managed the program in a way where I think Arkansas fans can be happy that there's a little bit of stability. And I know Arkansas fans probably don't look at Sam and think, hey, stability in the sense that of what? Well, he's not on this roller coaster. He's consistently in a situation where he's kind of making a bowl game, maybe not. And yeah, last year really sucked, but is it better than the alternative being Chad Morris? And the answer is yes. And so I think, to me, I still have faith that he could do it. And I think he needs time. And I know time is really not something a lot of college football coaches get. But Sam deserves that. And I think if you make a decision and make a move too quickly, you can set yourself back, which is exactly what happened when Arkansas hired Chad Morris. And certainly I think it's more likely than not if they were to get rid of Sam Pitman. I just think he needs to work on himself, look at himself, adjust to the times a little bit more, figure out what the identity will be in the new look SEC, and he'll do fine. I just think for Arkansas and the administration, sometimes there's a little bit of a skewed view of sort of the pecking order of where they fit in the SEC.
Yeah, don't tell Razorback fans that, because they feel a certain way and they're not going to budge on it. But
sure.
No, I agree with you completely. And I guess that with like Pitman, for instance, and heading into this year, it's like I've seen him so many times, even in last year. Like, this is a team that lost to Alabama on the road by a field goal. They lost to LSU on the road by a field goal. They lost to Ole Miss on the road at night by a touchdown. I mean, I know it doesn't matter because you got to win the games, but like, I feel
don't you need to be in them?
Yeah,
that's the thing, is don't you need to be in them? And Arkansas, generally speaking, is in a lot of games.
Yeah,
and
that's kind of my point of it. It's like he's right there. I just feel like just a few decisions and it changes everything. And that's maybe where some Razorback fans can have some confidence, because it's like, hey, it's not like you're getting blown 4-8. Yes, it's bad, but it wasn't like you were getting blown out. Well, at the end of the year you did, but in the beginning part, you didn't get blown out against really good teams on the road.
Not all 4-8s look alike. And that's the thing. Like I say this with Florida all the time. What's a 7-5 look like with Florida? It can mean a myriad of different things, right? And 4-8 is I think what last year was for Arkansas was kind of the floor. Every year I try to do an optimistic, pessimistic, and realistic for every single team. And that's the pessimistic view, but you're in a lot of those games. And no, you should not be in a situation where you're constantly losing them, but at least Arkansas is in those games. And if you catch a break or two, you spring an upset, and then you go to a bowl game, and then you're, have momentum, and you'll see what happens after that. So, I know Arkansas fans are not happy with Sam, and I get it, but what would you rather be, 0-8 and be a mystery, or would you at least be in the mix for not only, wins and a bowl game, but potentially drastically shaking up the national race? I mean, that's kind of where Arkansas was last year. They were in the mix in a lot of different spots, and it just didn't work out. And sometimes that just happens. And look, you go back to Nebraska with Matt Rule last year, right? I love Matt Rule. I think he can turn Nebraska into an 8 or 9 win team. And that's kind of where I look at Arkansas. They lose every game by 1 score, right? But that doesn't mean the momentum's not there, right? That doesn't mean that that you need to make a change. It means you need to have patience. And at some point, those 1-score losses will turn into 1-score victories, and then you're off and rolling.
Well, speaking of that, I know that SEC Media Days is around the corner. They've already sent out the credentialing, so it's almost like Christmas to all of us media guys who love the event down there, which is in Dallas now. But I'm just curious. I have my thought. When you see the end all of the predicted order of finish, you're going to have 16 teams in it now, and you're not going to have divisions. So Arkansas, I think they get picked 14th. What do you think that they get picked when the predicted order of finish comes out?
So you're saying 14th, you're saying above Vandy and
Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. Okay.
Those are the two.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
I think that's fair. Could you make an argument that they should be above South Carolina? Sure. Could you make an argument that they should be above Florida? It'd be rough. So I think 13th or 14th is probably where they'll be, but certainly ahead of Vandy and Mississippi State. I think Arkansas has earned at least that based on what Pitman has done. So, but yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's just funny that it's like, hey, I think it's from Dodgeball. It's like, hey, as long as you have the lowest of expectations, you can always exceed them.
That's right.
So, hey, you can only go up from there. You can only really shock some people in a good way. But we're speaking with Barrett. Yeah, we're speaking with Barrett Sallee. He's a college football smothered and covered on SiriusXM College as well as Outkick.com. Now, Barrett, looking at kind of the grand scheme of the SEC, sticking with media days, I know it's going to be different because of not having divisions and because of having Texas and Oklahoma. How do you feel like the as far as not only the teams that are contending for the SEC, but teams that are contending for a national championship, how many teams from the SEC do you see having a legitimate shot at winning it all in the SEC, but also winning the national championship itself?
Well, winning, it's a lot different than making it, obviously. But I would say the ones that can win it are Georgia and Texas. I'm still sort of on the fence whether Ole Miss is one that can win it or just get in, but I certainly think that they can just get in for sure. Alabama, I think they can get in. I don't want to say they can win it just because anybody who has a definitive take on Alabama this year is lying to you. There's no blueprint for replacing the greatest coach of all time. So can they get in? Yes. Can they win it? I have absolutely no freaking clue. But I do think they'll at least be competitive. I'm on the fence on Tennessee. In fact, I did my show this morning, College Football Smothered and Covered, and I have them as one of the dark horses to make the college football playoff. Because look, I mean, you win one game that maybe you shouldn't, whether it be Alabama, whether it be Georgia, or they also have at Oklahoma, which, I mean, I'm not the biggest Oklahoma guy, but whatever. Go 10-2, Tennessee can get in. Even if they don't play in the SEC championship game, and maybe especially if they don't play in the SEC championship game. So I'm not the biggest Missouri guy. I think Cody Schrader's absence is going to be a big deal. Missouri fans hate me for that. But I think of the ones that can win it, it's just Texas and Georgia. I think for sure Ole Miss and Alabama can get in. And then I would probably put Tennessee as the only other one that's kind of on that fringe.
Well, let me tell you, you don't really have the hatred of Missouri fans until you end up in their hype video after they beat Arkansas like I did. So that's something to be impressed by, but I wear that anyways. But you mentioned Tennessee as a dark horse. That's a team that Arkansas actually plays this year at home. And I've gone through the schedule for Arkansas, and I look at that Tennessee team, and I really like Josh Heupel. It seems like no matter what, they're going to score points. But in the schedule you kind of went through too. But what kind of is that Tennessee team? I mean, you say that they're a dark horse. What makes them so good? Is it strictly just because of the offense you feel that way? Or is it because they have a lot of pieces in place if they navigate through the schedule, and because of the schedule, they can really make a true run in it?
Well, I think it's all about complementary football, right? And the offense is going to click. I mean, that's just the way it is. Now, Nico Imaliava had a great bowl game, and I know folks will say, well, we did this with Joe Milton last year. Well, I didn't. I thought Joe Milton sucked, and Joe Milton did. Nico, I think, is more Hendon Hooker than Joe Milton. So that's a start right there. They've got great wide receivers, especially if Brew McCoy comes back healthy. I think they'll be a little bit in running games, a work in progress, but they've got maybe the best defender in the country in James Pierce, and it's all about havoc rate, right? So you're talking about Tennessee living in the backfield, creating havoc, creating turnovers, and that sets up that offense in good spots. So to me, I think it's just when you look at the recipe for success in the game nowadays, it's all about, how do you have just enough defense? And that championships are won with just enough defense. And a lot of that depends on what your offense looks like and what you ask your defense to do. And I don't think the ask is going to be that high for Tennessee. It's the same thing with Ole Miss, right? The offense is going to be next level. So what do you need your defense to do? Well, you just need to be adequate. And if you're adequate, you're going to win a lot of football games. And yeah, Tennessee's schedule is not that great or not that navigable. I get that because they have Georgia and they have Alabama. But, I think the identity is set. Josh knows how to win games. He's done it before. And the offense, I think, is going to be significantly better than it was last year. And that was an underrated team last year, too. I don't think people realized how good that team actually was. And that was with a quarterback in Joe Milton who wasn't very good.
Well, I did want to bring up also that you put out your top 5 coaches in college football. And anytime I'm sure you do this, you get a lot of responses. But you had Kirby Smart at number 1, which I don't think many people could or should debate. I wouldn't think. But you have Dabo Swinney at number 2, Ryan Day at 3, Sarkisian at 4, and Kalen DeBoer at 5. So what was just to get your thoughts, what was your reasoning behind ranking them the way you did, and which one was the most controversial that you heard about?
Well, it was Dabo at 2, just because Dabo's been in the news for a lot of reasons, and I think unfair reasons lately. And, I think it's interesting with him because they won 9 games last year. They had double-digit win seasons for 12 straight seasons. And so now suddenly Dabo Swinney is not a good coach. I don't necessarily buy that. I think there's a false narrative about him not embracing the transfer portal. I just think he's more conservative about it. And what he said last week about the transfer portal is basically what what Gus Malzahn said 2 weeks ago, what Brian Kelly said 2 weeks ago. It's like, look, it's cost benefit analysis. Is somebody in the portal better than one of my players? Yeah, maybe. But what's the cost of that, both from a financial standpoint and from a locker room harmony standpoint? And so he's willing to to go out there. I just think he's more conservative with it, and that's okay. Ryan Day caused a lot of heartache as well because he hasn't won the big one. And I was like, look, his record speaks for itself. No, he has not done a good job of beating Michigan, but he went to a playoff. And I would say 2 years ago, he was that Ohio State team was the second best team in the country and was almost the first, almost the best, because that Peach Bowl against Georgia, they lost at the stroke of midnight. So, I think Ryan Day at 3 caused a little bit of consternation as well. I think people were okay with Sark now. The record doesn't necessarily show it from an overall standpoint, but I think everybody kind of sees how that program and that team is built for the SEC and built for that transition. And obviously, Degnier won a semifinal last year. And then Kalen DeBoer, I think it's different conversations, right? Is the conversation, will he succeed at Alabama, or has he been a good coach throughout his career? The latter, he's one of the best. He's won everywhere he's won. He's won quickly. And the only reason he hasn't been asked to sustain success is because he's gone to a bigger job before he's had the chance, because he's been so successful. So will that happen at Alabama? We'll see. But I don't think that there's any doubt that Kalen DeBoer is one of the most elite coaches in college football.
Last one before I let you get out of here, Barrett. I'm fascinated by this Jaden Rashada story with him suing Billy Napier and boosters and everything because this NIL thing. I know we only know what we know about it right now, and the legal system and everything kind of sometimes can be up in the air. But how do you see this playing out, not only for Rashada but also for Napier and the people involved at Florida? What do you think the end result ends up being in all of this?
Well, billable hours are undefeated, so lawyers are going to have a lot of billable hours. So they're going to win in the grand scheme of things, which is true basically everywhere. But to me, I think it's going to be really hard for Jaden Rashada to flat out to win the case, right? Because they're so vague. The NIL laws and the ramifications beyond them are so loosely defined that I don't necessarily think he's going to have a good case, at least when you bring it forward to a judge. And I'm not a lawyer, but I am 2-0 in my amateur legal career with an eviction and also with the small claims court case. But that's neither here nor there. But I think it's just going to be hard for him to prove that. And I think it will set the precedent too. I think the interesting thing about it is what happens if he wins, because there will be a flood of lawsuits filed from a lot of different players. And we'll get to see peel back the curtain even more on what goes on in the NIL process. But ultimately, I think they'll settle. I mean, it's just, to me, that's probably the end goal anyway. And ultimately, I think that's what will happen.
I think my favorite part of that story was Kirby Smart giving the blessing, to move forward with it. It's like, what would you think? He's like, maybe we shouldn't go after a rival of ours and cause any problems. Like, I was like, man, that's the biggest easy answer for Kirby Smart he could have.
So funny.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? It's never a dull moment in our sport, right?
Nope. Never a dull moment. Trust me, from a team that has had motorcycles,
especially in Arkansas.
Yeah, about to say, man, like there is not, knock on wood, there's nothing crazy that's happened just yet, but give it time. It'll happen at some point in time. Just the way it goes. But either way, it's always fun to talk with you. It's Barrett Sallee. He is college football's host of Smothered and Covered on SiriusXM, as well as a columnist for Outkick.com. And Barrett, as always, man, appreciate you joining us. We look forward to catching up with you in a few weeks, man. Have a good one, all right?
Thanks, John. You too.
All right, that was Barrett Sallee joining us and talking all things college football. It's always good to catch up with Barrett. And again, SEC Media Days being pretty much here, or at least close to it. It's going to be in Dallas. It's going to be a lot of fun and get to see a lot of interesting things down there, as always. But good talking some college football. Here's the thing that I've noticed, though, folks. Like, one of the great things that we're able to do here at Natty State, and I've talked about this before, is about just looking at the digital landscape of audiences and having exact numbers of how many people are watching and listening and everything. And of course, all of our content's been killing it and across all social medias and everything. But it is fascinating to me that when you see the numbers and you see, because I like to experiment a little bit, seeing like what gets a lot of people interested, what doesn't, and everything. It is so indicative of the market going towards the way that the Razorback fan base feels. Like, basketball is number one right now still. People want to hear about basketball. Number 2 is football, and then number 3 is baseball. You think I'm crazy, but the numbers speak for themselves, and the numbers don't lie. So, but yeah, I just think that that's so crazy. It's so crazy how that's done. And I'm for it. I love it because the audience is going to dictate what the content is anyways. So it's the only thing that makes sense. But we're going to get into Hey, Y'all See This segment before we close up shop here on the John Nabors Show. But I want to remind everybody that we're brought to you by Signature Bank. They're a privately held boutique bank that's redefining the experience for everybody in our region when it comes to all things banking. Just know that they're personally invested, business-minded, community-focused, right-sized, and forward-thinking. Those are the 5 things that you want to have in your bank. Something as important as your money and your livelihood, your business, whatever it is, you want to make sure it's with a bank that knows all about professionalism, all about security, and all about helping you. And Signature Bank does that for you. So check them out today and find out more details by visiting their website at www.signature.bank. That's www.signature.bank. And you can also visit one of their convenient locations here in the state of Arkansas, as they were born here in Fayetteville, pretty much. So check them out today. It's Signature Bank, the official bank of Natty State Sports. All right, let's go ahead and get into the Hey, Y'all See This segment. This is also one of my favorite segments here. So a little crazy storyline here that it had to be Penn State, right? So former Penn State doctor is accusing James Franklin of interfering with the medical team's decisions. This seems like a pretty significant story. So according to On3, it says James Franklin has been accused of interfering with medical decisions on players by a former Penn State physician. Now, the details go in here. First off, let me just say, every time I see James Franklin, I think of Pitbull, the Dr. Pepper guy. I don't know why I always think that way, but I do. So, anyways, this comes from a former doctor of Penn State. Said Seddenberg detailed a situation where Franklin and then Penn State athletic director Sandy Barber wanted a player who attempted suicide to be medically disqualified from the team while he was receiving treatment and short-term psychiatric care. Because why, you ask? If that player was medically disqualified, it would have caused him to lose his scholarship. That's bad. Now, let's be clear about it. It's simply an accusation. There's a lot of things that have to go through all of this. But that's a pretty staunch accusation. And I really hope it's not true for the sake of, many reasons why. But he also said that Seddenberg added that he declined to give into the pressure from Franklin and Barber. He included other instances in which he thought Franklin was overstepped in trying to get in his way on medical decisions. Lynch's lawyers reportedly argued Tuesday that Nike could fine the school for unauthorized spatting, which is ankle taping that covers the brand's logos on the player's shoes. It could be viewed as a breach of contract for restricting logo placement. So that's interesting. He goes from pressuring the team's doctors to when Nike being upset that they're taping over the ankles. But either way, that's just not a good story. That's not a good thing. And the fact that it's already out there and being seen and being talked about is just a bad look for James Franklin. And I'll also say this too, folks. I am not a huge James Franklin fan. I'm going to be honest. I hated when he was at Vanderbilt, which I get he was at Vanderbilt, but I feel like he and Auburn a little bit with Trooper Taylor, they're big on those towel waving things on the sidelines. It just looked like there was a party, which now it's more common now. But I remember they just went over the top on it, and it got really out of control and everything. So, anyways, that's pretty rough story there. And again, hopefully ends up not being true. Also, this one. How about this? The NFL fans, I should say, they're chirping at Patrick Mahomes because he showed up to the camp as a fat guy. And I was looking at this. So Kansas City put this out here. And here's the video. Just watch it. That's what he looks like. And everyone's like, man, he looks out of shape. He looks rough. I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, if he looks rough, what do I look like? I don't know. Maybe it's just a bad shirt. Maybe it's a bad fit. Maybe the waistband's too high, on the shorts or something. I don't know. But when they showed this and everyone's just ripping him saying that he looks rough, I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean for us regular guys here? Let's just pause this for a second. Be any one of us. And he's a multi-Super Bowl winning champion. He's got 3 now. I think he can afford to look like that as long as he keeps playing the way he is and the way he does. So, anyways, people ripping him. I was like, good grief, people. Y'all are mean. You're so mean. That's how people go on the internet. And again, it's not like Patrick Mahomes is really going to care. He's gotten ripped for a lot of things, which is really unfortunate because some of this stuff is out of his control, like his brother and all the craziness that's gone on there too. So, yeah. Again, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is too worried about it, but it's like, if that's out of shape, then I'd hate to know what people thought about me. Also, I love this story too. How about this? A story of a viral deal of a guy buying a plate of boneless buffalo wings off of Facebook Marketplace. We'll stop right there. Okay. Who is buying boneless buffalo wings off of the Facebook Marketplace? Now, I've bought things off the Facebook Marketplace, and I would say most of my experiences have been pleasant. There was one where it was so shady I had to nix it because they were trying to tell me to go this place, and then it's like, no, actually go to this place because I'm not there. And I'm like, nope, I'm not dealing with that. Anyways, somebody that's going on there to buy boneless buffalo wings, I have questions anyways. But the funny part of that story is that he did receive product. It was just dino nuggets. And here's a picture of it. This guy on Twitter goes by Flea. He says, don't buy anything from this guy. And the guy's name's Steven Tatz. He says he was selling boneless wings and a drink. And here's what I got. Charged me $15 up front. I tried getting a refund and he blocked me and said, take me to Judge Judy. I just wanted wings. I'm like, I understand your frustration, but at the same time, how I've always felt about wings. Wings or boneless wings, I should say. Boneless wings are basically chicken nuggets. You know, people like the traditional wings. That's usually the route that they like to go. But I've always felt like that is it's a pretty common thing. So I don't know whose team I'm on this side. I may be on team Steven Tatz because those are, by at least my definition, boneless buffalo wings covered in wing sauce. That's just the way it is. I get that. I mean, but what are you buying boneless wings from Facebook Marketplace anyways? That one's on you anyways. So that's a tough look. Okay, this next one, I'm going to try not to get demonetized for this one. This is insane. For those of you who play poker, this is a horrible, horrible beat here. Okay, check this out. And we're going to kind of walk through without the audio. I'm going to take out the audio. Hopefully we can do it. So, as you can see from the video playing that you got these two guys. You got one guy with a jack and six and another guy with double kings. All right. Hey, that's pretty solid. Not bad. Pretty decent hand. Well, they're going through the motions of trying to figure out, the way that they play poker at this level, which, in the times I've played poker, it's never been that case and never been to this high level. So anyways, this right there. Okay. So you got the four of spades, the eight of diamonds, and the king of clubs. So the guy who had double kings has a three of a kind, goes all in. $26.5 million. All in. Because that is an outstanding hand. He has 98% chance of winning. 98% chance of winning at this point over the guy with a jack and a six. They put down a 5. And it's like, jumps up to 10% now because he could be getting close to getting a straight with the 4, 5, 6, 8. All he needs is a 7, right? I mean, but the chances of that is pretty low. 10%. Oh my gosh. Lay down a 7. He gets a straight. And the guy who had a 98% chance of winning with three of a kind of kings loses it all, loses that much money on that beat. That is brutal. That is brutal. I just could not imagine like that much money. And even in if I was at the casino with like $10 bets, I'd still be beside myself if that happened. And if I went all in on it, I'd be mad for the rest of the day. But geez, man, that's a tough look. That is a really, really tough look. So Also, yeah, I do want to play this video because there's another good one too when talking about college golf, which I don't know how much of you actually watch college golf. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to say that I do, but this was pretty rough in seeing how Delta Airlines handles their luggage with care. Because, I mean, look at this. This comes from ETSU's Twitter account for Delta. They're just videoing the guys out here handling their stuff. Volume here. But look at this. Those are their golf clubs. Just tosses it. Another one. Just tosses it. How about another one? Ugh. Tossed it. And another guy's just like, ugh. Tossed it. And then tosses it. And you know what? People had a lot of mixed reactions to this. And I'll admit, like, I don't know which team I want to be on this one either. Because you know the amount of luggage that these guys have to handle each and every day. And especially heavy stuff. And they're trying to get it done as quickly as possible. So that way people don't complain about how long their luggage is taking and everything. Like, I'm actually probably okay with this. Now that I think about it. I'm okay with the Delta Airline people handling the luggage like this. If you're bringing any sort of major stuff like fancy or extremely fragile, do it on the carry-on. Carry it on yourself. But again, when you have these, you can't have it both ways. Because if they handled it with pristine care, like a lot of people would, it would take forever to get your luggage. And then you'd be complaining about your luggage taking forever. So I think I'm on Team Delta on this one. So I don't know. I've never had any issues with the baggage handling or anything like that, but I know some people have, and it's been very frustrating for people too. So, okay, a few things though before we get out of here, folks. I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow we will be at Tin Roof starting at 4:00 in the afternoon. Come hang out. We're going to have some special guests with us too. It's a great spot, and they got half price apps. They got happy hour going on too. It's a sweet setup right there. We're right there on stage. The whole crew is going to be there. We're going to hang out there, and not only just until 6 o'clock, but we'll keep the party going afterwards. So come hang out with us. As you know, I know a lot of you are like, well, you know, it's a college scene. Well, here's the thing. College students are out. So this is the time to come and hang out. We had a great turnout last week of a lot of the locals in Fayetteville and just in Northwest Arkansas. So come hang out with us. It's a great time. We talk it up. We yuck it up. We make fun of each other and talk trash and have some giveaways and some shirts and all that stuff. So yeah, come chill with us at Tin Roof tomorrow on Dixon Street. And I promise you won't be disappointed. Like Bob Holt came last week, so you may even get to meet Bob Holt. Just saying. I'm just saying. So it's going to be a great time out there too. And then we're going to head into the weekend, and we're going to have some great coverage too of Razorback baseball for the regionals and supers. That's going to be incredible to see all that go down in the way that it goes down. I'm excited about it. I know people are pretty down in the dumps about the game today, but overall, I think that it'll be fine. It'll be fine in the grand scheme of things. So, but I'm going to start ending the show too on like a send-off note, a little message. But maybe it's something I learned or something I thought about. But here's the thing. When going back to the original topic of what we started, I know we talked about, what was it? Baseball first and then Calipari. But for the baseball side, I want to reiterate, I am not saying that this team is failing at life. Like, they literally won the West. They won 20 SEC games, and they are good enough to go to Omaha. Good enough to go to Omaha. But they do have issues when it comes to their offense. It's been there all season long. It's who they are. It's not so easy to admit, but it's who they are. Nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to witness that type of offense. It's just not fun. So my whole thing is that this team is about doing just enough. Doing just enough. When they have their regional that they host next week, it's going to be, at least should be, easier games than what they've played in the SEC for the most part. It's double elimination. And they have the games at home, which, as we know, Arkansas has been incredible at Baum-Walker Stadium this year. Now, eventually, they're going to have to be better than that when they go away from Baum if they're going to go to Omaha, because in Omaha, it's not in Baum-Walker Stadium. But I still believe that the team has enough talent and enough pitching, enough bullpen, enough defense, enough guys playing really well, like a Hudson White or a Peyton Stovall. They have enough to go on a run and to get it done and get to Omaha. Because I'm sure a lot of you remember in 2022, that team didn't even get to a top 16 seed, and they made it to Omaha. They lost their final 3 series of the SEC play. They weren't good, but they made it to Omaha. So it's about coming together at the right time, and who knows, maybe somebody needs to say something insulting about a player to get them fired up. Maybe some radio person. Maybe that's what's going to do it. But still, there are opportunities in front of this team. I still believe in them, still confident in them, but they just got to find a way. Now they have to. You got to find a way to get guys in when they're in scoring position. No excuses. You got to find a way. But should be great. I'm hoping for a long postseason. A lot longer than last year, hopefully. That was way too short for what Arkansas was able to accomplish, but at least you could chalk it up to the injuries last year. This year, injuries is not the problem. Everybody's healthy for the most part. Knock on wood. You got literally the best pitcher in the country as your ace with a really great bullpen and a lot of other starters that have proven themselves at times this year. You got enough. You just got to do enough. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching into the John Nabors Show. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show on all across our platforms on social media at Natty State Sports. And we're going to have so much fun at Tin Roof tomorrow, so come on out and see us. We look forward to seeing you all getting out there. And just remember, it's going to be the same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow at Tin Roof. So have a great rest of your night, everybody. We'll see you then.